Good morning! It's the Weekender!
Yay!
We're all up bright and early
Yeah.
to talk about gaming.
Yep.
Good morning.
Look who's here.
Yes, we have kidnapped
Hello.
Master James in
We
here.
have got Mantic to send James on an all expenses paid holiday
Studio One, which is looking awesome.
to Studio One. Do you like it?
It's really cool. I mean, I've seen 3 of your studios now. I've seen Studio 2.
Yep.
I've seen the old studio, whatever that was called, and now Studio One. And Studio One is my favourite one.
It's the coolest of all
It's
of
the
them
coolest.
so far.
Yeah.
Well, to kick off the show, we're going to be talking about all kinds of things in this show. We're going to be talking about what we've done this week in gaming. We've been working hard on some stuff. We've got Dreadball Xtreme. We're going to go into depth on
Dreadball
that.
Xtreme.
I believe we're going to talk a little bit about some sci-fi movies and some other stuff. In the meantime, I am, of course, joined by Justin the Magnificent,
Hello.
Lloyd,
Hello.
and James.
Hewit.
James M. Hewit.
The only person who says the M. Well, it's you guys here, really. It's a Beast of War thing.
You earned it. Okay, this week in gaming. Okay, so, right, this week has been a busy week for us. We'd been working away for most of the week on the top navigation and stuff like that. So, we're also preparing for James coming across.
Yep.
And then James is staying with us for a couple of days. He flies out, and then Dave Shoulder flies in.
You know, it's
And
such a
our
shame.
whole-
I've never met the guy. I really want to meet him.
Oh,
We're going to be crossing paths.
Dave's a funky dude.
I
yeah,
know.
we got to be
Yeah.
careful. Now that'll be like Gozer and Zool. we maybe just keep you guys.
Are you the gatekeeper?
a plane apart is probably safe.
I like the snappy contrast we get between Warren in his t-shirt and jeans and Dave's there in his dicky bow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you
He's a cool
expect
guy.
him just to be like, now where to park the TARDIS?
Well, Dave and myself, this is our first get together now to start firing up the 2nd season of Flames of War for the win. Not only that, but it's the first time we're getting together where we're going to start looking at bolt action. So
We're going to take on Bolt Action.
we're going to take on bolt action together because it's something myself and Dave have been talking about for ages. Dave is determined to unleash his historical perspective upon me.
And the defences are eroding, aren't they? I can see you slipping into the historical kind of
You
thing,
have been
more or
slipping
less.
a little more and more, Warren, because at the start of the Flames of War for the win season 1, you were just like, I don't care about this history nonsense.
We've already lost him too. And that's based on the conversation I had with him 5 minutes ago. He's like, Lloyd, I'm dreaming about Nazi bunkers and we can invade them with
Oh yes, yes.
There were
yes.
diagrams.
They have that sketch.
I have even sketched a diagram of an idea of a gaming table that I'm going to make Lloyd build. so yeah, we've been preparing everything for those 2 trips, and then we have Roman. The mighty Roman is coming in after that. So, as part of that, one of the things that I've been working on is a winter gaming table for Flames of War. Clearly, one of the things was that when we arrived back here in Studio One, we need to build up our gaming table collection again. So the first one that we've been working on was a winter table, and we've been having some fun with that one.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because you come up with this idea of using little brass rods for putting trees into.
Really
Yeah.
cool idea.
And then when you want to rescale the table, for example, it's scaled for Flames of War for Dave coming over
Yeah.
with the small trees. Put them all out, put the bigger trees in, and it suddenly changes the scale of the board.
That's perfect for bolt action,
Yeah.
40k, whatever. The key is, like anybody at home, okay, here in Beast of War, we probably have maybe a bit more space than most of you would have to dedicate to your hobbies, okay? So, but we're always looking at how we can repurpose things as well. So, when we have gaming tables here, you can't really afford to have a gaming table that can only be used for one thing. Okay, so it's so this particular table we wanted to go for a winter effect because winter boards are cool, and for World War II type stuff, it's nice. It kind of looks funky. So the techniques that we explored on this, and we're probably going to come back and show you guys some of this stuff on camera at a later date. But
If it works.
if it works, right now it's in that stage that all gaming tables go through, where it's
up in the
looking.
air.
Yeah, gaming tables start out where you're looking, you've got it in your mind, and you think it's going to be amazing. You start building it, and you think, yeah, it's still going to be amazing. There comes the point where you're just over halfway through, where you look at it and you go,
It looks like a collection of bits.
it's a disaster! It's a disaster!
This is going to look
and
really
it
crap.
kind of sits like that until you get about 80 to 90% through the project. It just starts to look a bit gash.
It's the paint. See, the moment because you've all these different colours, materials. Say you've got some blue polystyrene,
Yeah.
you've got some wood, you've got some resin bits. It just looks like a random collection of stuff. You just went, have that.
But then you
Yeah.
cross that line, don't you, where you've hit the magical point where suddenly
Bang.
it
something
all
clicks.
starts to click.
You
Which
step
is you
back
start
and
the
everything
sprint.
comes into focus.
Which is usually at the point where you start to apply paint to it. Because
Yeah.
then all those different materials that you've mashed together, wood,
they start to
polystyrene,
mat into the one thing.
suddenly become dirt together or grass together, whatever it is, and,
Yeah.
and it suddenly starts to come alive. this forest table we're working on, you've got it carved out in polystyrene and stuff, so I arrived over and it's sitting there with big polystyrene sheets and stuff, so it really looks kind of snowy.
Yeah.
Then we mixed up our snow mix.
Yeah.
And it did a good job of getting rid of some lines and stuff on the polystyrene to pull it all together into one
Yeah.
thing. But it's cream.
Yeah. The snow mix is like pissy snow. It's,
So what is it? What's the snow mix?
well, this is the thing. We were experimenting. This is the other challenge you have. There's a couple of things I want to talk about with this board, but one of the challenges you have whenever you're doing gaming tables is it's all very well to go down to your local store and buy a little pot of flock and stuff like that. You ain't going to make a gaming table out of that.
No, you
okay?
need big bags.
So what we've done is we decided we work on this this stuff called Magimix, okay? And Magimix for us has always been a combination of sprackle or polyfiller, PVA,
Sand, probably.
sand sometimes,
okay,
and
yeah,
paint.
yeah.
And what we do is we mix that together at different kind of coarseness to create various textures.
I
Yeah,
know
so
this
if you
stuff
want
well. I've
to
used it a lot
know-
myself.
Yeah,
and
so
whatever.
we've put it together to make cement, and you stipple that on, and you use very fine grade stuff, and it does beautiful cement texture.
Works great for cement.
We've done it for mud.
Works great for mud.
Works great for mud. So this time we thought, well, do you know what? We're going to work the mix to make snow. Now, the other thing we decided to do. Normally we mix a big massive vat of the
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
but we thought, no, we're going to take our time this time, and we'll mix as we go. So we worked on the premise of 1 part brilliant white emulsion, just to give us our white pigment in there.
Yep.
2 parts PVA.
White PVA. So
Yep.
4 parts polyfiller.
Yeah.
Okay, to give it the binding and what would ultimately make it go.
Was there
hard.
sand as well?
No.
we
Okay.
skipped sand.
No, we
because
skipped sand because the polyfiller in there
Yeah,
is enough of a binding agent in this one. We
Yeah.
want it to be very soft looking.
At the moment, we haven't really seen the result because it's drying.
Yeah.
Right? So sand may get added. What we're trying to, we know you can buy snow
No,
products.
there'll be no
and things.
sand added to it. So sand doesn't take the paint well enough. Sand will take paint like red paint and stuff like that there because
I think
sand
we're just not
itself.
gonna get away with it on the white.
Yeah, sand itself is already kind of a color. But remember, sand is effectively a crystal, and it doesn't take the white paint enough in order to create snow. So sand's not a good option for making snow.
I have sprayed paint red though.
Yeah.
Or no,
Sand.
sand red, which
Yeah.
is great because it looked like Mars. Just drop it down.
So what we did was we put this together. The only mistake I made, now this is something that we have started doing. We made the mistake in the past when we were buying materials that we always seemed to buy more expensive than what we actually needed. So we bought expensive paints from B&Q.
Yeah.
Like we bought brown paint, which now I consider madness, because if you want brown paint, all you have to do is to get whatever paints are lying around, mix them
Yeah,
together,
just mix it into
add
a
black, and you have brown. Whereas we were buying brown paint.
Right.
We were buying raw materials and glues and things like that there, when the reality was we were buying a lot of stuff we didn't actually need. So this time I went in, we had our big vat of PVA and stuff, and I had some leftover paint, but I didn't have any polyfiller. So I bought the cheap own brand polyfiller from B&Q.
folly pillar or something.
At which point you think, haha, this is cool, what a good idea.
Yeah, so I just bought it in its dry dust mix, because normally we were buying it pre-mixed, but there's no point in buying it pre-mixed, you can mix it yourself. So we bought that and we put it together. However, what I have to do is I have to go back now and buy the expensive one just to test, because the cheaper variety that I bought,
You think it has a wee bit of pigment in it?
no, I don't think it was bleached enough.
Yeah.
And it was cream, and it turned the snow texture slightly off-white. Okay? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to buy the expensive polyfiller, because I have a feeling that it might be more heavily bleached, and it might be a brilliant pure white.
When you're mixing it up, you don't notice, and then when you put it down on white polystyrene, because polystyrene is
and once that
bright,
once the PVA starts drying as well, that starts going clear. You haven't got the white pigment of the PVA.
So it's one of those things. Now, two things might happen at this point, okay? This weekend, when we're looking at it again, we may find that slightly off-white actually worked quite well for us. And when we start to give it dusting of white over the top, it gives us a certain amount of depth. But I have never seen anybody on any tutorial or anything that I've ever done start with a snow that was off-white. I've seen them start with a snow that was slightly blue, but I've never seen them start with one that was off-white.
Slightly blue?
Yeah, if you had a slightly blue tinge to the lower layers of your snow,
right,
it can give the snow a depth.
Sort of a shadow inside it.
Well, it's not a shadow. It's just a depth.
Okay.
So it is. It gives the snow that slightly better sense.
It's the only colour you can really add in snow without it looking.
It's playing with your mind.
However,
your mind
even
looks
that,
at it, and assumes blue is cold, and it perfectly accepts that this should be shaded blue.
Yeah.
You look at like Frozen, the Disney film that's out at the moment.
Yes.
Tinges of blue.
Yeah, lots of
blue.
It's a blue, yeah.
But it can be a difficult thing to pull off. So for the vast majority of you guys, I would recommend when you're dealing with snow, just deal with whites.
Just go white,
because it makes life a lot easier for you than if you've put the blue on and suddenly you just find.
Because we've done this before, where we painted a table, we sprayed it white, and then we got a brush out, and I think we stippled it blue.
Yeah.
And we ended up basically just spraying it all white again.
We ended up
because we couldn't hit the point where we were happy with it.
Yeah.
I'll spray a bit more white on, spray a bit, and then you're looking at it going, we've just sprayed it white.
Get the paint roller.
So at this stage, I'm at the point where we're going to work with our pissy yellow snow to see if it comes up, and it might actually work. It might work well. We might find that it gives a sense of depth. If that's the case, we'll report back and we'll show you guys how it's done. Otherwise, I'm also going to go in and going to check the other kind of filler agents and see if any of them are a brilliant white. And if that's the case, then we'll report back on that. But as Lloyd says, the other two techniques that we tried on this board was, firstly, the sculpting. So what we did this time to save time was this is an 8x4 table. So we got an 8x4 baseboard and an 8x4 sheet of polystyrene. So you need a trailer and whatnot. Lucky enough, we have Studio 3.
which James hasn't seen yet.
Which we loaded it all into and brought it out. So what we did was we glued the 8x4 sheet just directly on to the table. Then took a black Sharpie and said, okay, we want topography on this. We want it to look cool. The topography kind of needs to be deep. So we just sketched out, we're going to maybe put a river here. We're going to leave this part high, crosshatch this to go low.
It's in a full ordnance survey map, basically.
And that's it. And
church with a steeple.
It's a whole pile of basically what I do is where I'm leaving something high, I leave it plain. So I put a thing where I want it to go low. I put a crosshatch or like lines like that.
Yeah.
And when it's been removed completely, I put little X's on it.
Wow.
So that's my kind of like terrain vocabulary.
That's really cool, actually.
Key.
It is a map key. Right. The key to this one was that I sculpted the entire table with heat.
That's really cool.
Okay, so we deliberately went for low density polystyrene, which is just EPS, okay?
Yeah.
On all of the other table builds that we've done, and if you've looked at Gamescape, and we have another Gamescape in the can, whenever we get this heavy development out of the way, we'll start to get it put together. But we've always used high density polystyrene, which is the pink stuff, okay? Which and we always went for that because it was stronger.
You get it in blue as well.
Yeah.
And yellow, even.
So we went for that stuff because we felt it was stronger. It was less messy because anytime we'd worked with EPS, you had little balls of polystyrene all over the place. This stuff was less messy. It was coming off in chunks rather than lots of little balls. However, there's a cost aspect to this. EPS
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap.
Expensive stuff.
And I wanted to experiment with sculpting with heat because I had this theory that I could create the entire topography in about 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, so you were thinking it'll bring it down and make nice organic shapes.
Yeah. Whereas if we'd went with the high density stuff, we'd have been at that for 2 days, maybe a day. Certainly a day anyway.
You wouldn't have been doing it with heat because it just wouldn't melt enough.
No, I mean, all we could have done would have
Shaper
been
and
to
sand it.
scrape
Oh,
it. We'd
yeah.
probably been at it for a day or two. So we opted for the experiment. We put it down, and it worked beautifully. So what you do is you then go at it with a heat gun. Make sure it's a well ventilated area, or you'll end up a bit skewy. You go at it with a heat gun. And if you keep the heat gun moving,
Not your mother's hairdryer.
Not a hairdryer. You need a proper paint stripping heat gun for
Black
this
and
kind of
Decker
thing.
style.
You know, there's women losing their heat tongues all over the country right now.
So that low density EPS reacts beautifully to the heat. So what it does, it all kind of sucks back into itself, so you can really start to drop it. If you keep it on long enough, it'll actually go right back to the baseboard and divide apart.
Wow.
For the river bit, I did do a bit of cutting just to save time, so I did slice a chunk out and then heat gunned it back.
Yeah, to make your banks.
The other great thing about using the heat gun is if you use your heat gun at the top, okay, of the polystyrene, on the riverbank as an example, the polystyrene goes like that, okay? You want to make sure you don't hit the edges of the polystyrene. And it goes like that, and it comes down into a riverbank. However, if you change the angle of your heat gun towards actually pointing into the riverbank, it comes down, but the bottom also comes up. And you've maybe seen an effect in deep snow at a riverbank where the snow overhangs the riverbank slightly, it creates an overdrift. So you can actually start to create drifts and things like that as well.
I have to give this a go myself.
So it worked beautifully. It took about 45 minutes, and the entire table was sculpted. However, you are left with a very rough top. The top is not rock hard, but the top is hard because the polystyrene has melted to create a kind of a skim on the surface.
Yeah.
So what you do then, well, I'll tell you what you don't do. What you don't do is you don't get your bare hand and go like that to try and rub it all off. Because I've cut the hand of myself.
Essentially, you have sharp little spikes that are reasonably hard.
Exactly. Get yourself a good heavy-duty glove.
Workman's glove, yeah.
Like a workman's glove. And get in there with your hand. Don't be afraid of what you break off, because it will break off at some point. Get it in and smooth it out with your hands. You'll have a rough, earthy texture anyway. Smooth it all off with your hands to try and get rid of as much of it as possible. Then get the vacuum cleaner. And either hoover it up or stand the board upright, give it a good tap, let it all fall out, but you probably still want to hit it with the vacuum cleaner.
And when you do it yourself, if you're doing that at home, don't tell anyone you carved it in 45 minutes, because it takes the factor away. I walked in, I was like, wow, such amount of hard work you've done on this.
3 days I was here.
Wow. Thinking to myself, you've been at this all day. 45 minutes.
Yeah, so it's the Star Trek Enterprise thing. Whenever Scotty's telling the Forge, you say you need 2 hours, but you can do it in an hour, not a problem.
Yeah. I was just thinking, you plonker, you completely burst. I was looking at you with awe, going, wow, what amazing. 45 minutes. Oh, okay then.
Well, we don't have an awful lot of time to spend these days on this, but we still want awesome, effective wargaming terrain.
Actually, that was the quickest bet. Drilling the holes in to put in the little trees takes longer.
Well, this was the second technique. The second thing was, and this is the space-saving aspect, we need these boards to rescale. So in other words, we need to be able to use them for 10 mil, 15 mil, 28 mil.
Yeah, and then it doesn't matter which system within those 3 categories it is.
So to do that, you've got to be careful what you put on the board. So clearly I want to use it for Flames of War, but I can't stick dead tanks into it. So dead tanks I have to do as little separate pieces that I can set on. Yeah. You've got to be careful with features like fences or roads and things like that. A dirt track, at 15 mil, a dirt track wide enough to hold a 28 mil tank, right?
Yeah.
Is fine. That's a dirt track at 28 mil. It's a dirt road at 15 mil.
Yeah.
Okay, so that still works. Bridges and things you got to be careful of, because bridges probably better to set on.
Set in.
And the other thing is grass. Grass is a big giveaway. If you put too much foliage and plantations into it, that's a dead giveaway as well, because the reeds that are suddenly twice as tall as the guys that are on the thing start
kind of jars you out of the historical.
I'm going to shoot you with my panzer. No, you're not. Why? Because you can't see over the reeds.
So this blade of grass shall hide me.
So little logs and things like that in the rivers, yes. Possibly rocks. Rocks work fine because you get some big ass rocks in real life. So
really
rocks being on
that's
there.
why slate's really good. Slate is good because it doesn't really scale. It scales perfectly. So a piece of slate, that big, looks effectively the same as a piece of slate this big.
Correct.
And so
we use rock.
Yeah.
We use
cork bark.
Yeah. So cork bark chippings. We spray them black in a box. Just keep spraying, shake them around. Then hit them with weathering sprays and move them around.
Well, we sprayed them grey.
Well, grey.
Because if you spray it black and hit it with weather sprays, you won't see anything.
Grey, but you end
obsidian.
up with these rocks, and if you get a kind of a slate blue in there as well, it gives you a kind of a bluey kind of effect.
What? You're going to go with the bluey effect, even though me and you both looking at it going, why on earth did these turn blue when we sprayed them? So that's not an effect that we did on purpose, is it?
It was an effect.
It was now.
When it came to actually doing the trees, what we opted for was we got brass tubes, thin brass tubes, and basically zipped them up at inch lengths using a Dremel. So just zip, 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 zip. And we put 100 and something odd of these in. We then took a drill and started to drill in. And every time you drilled, you put a dab of glue. We use Tech 7 here, and put into the board itself. You then have to follow up behind that with either a toothpick or a long nail to go into it, so as you don't lose sight of it and you don't fill it in with the Magimix.
Right, now, but at this point, we haven't been back to inspect it, so we don't know for sure that all these things will come out, or all we've done is maybe just glued a load of nails into our holes.
Actually, I can answer that question, because at this point I have tested
you've been out?
I did go out. I went out earlier today and had a quick look at it, and they come out fine.
Brilliant.
So it'll be a little bit of sanding and stuff like that. So,
but it means you've got.
Well, what we don't do is we just pop the trees in and out. So when we're going 15 mil, we put 15 mil trees down, put some 15 mil kind of effects. Like I have tanks that have been kind of cut and they look like they're going into snow drifts. They're all black with rust paint on them.
So basically burnt out shells.
Yeah. So that in a nutshell is some of the techniques that we're using currently to build the first of the gaming tables. We also are looking at a modular table for desert, where we can flip and move it around and change it. So we're going to get that painted up as well, because we've got some desert stuff coming up very soon. There's some action is going to take place in the desert, Justin. So I'm also looking into how to make effective palm trees.
New challenge?
We haven't. That's not all the terrain that's been going on, though.
Yes, I have been desperately trying to get a game of Deadzone on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've not been able to, because I've been building a mountain of Deadzone terrain for your battle report.
Yeah.
That was the clumsiest fist bump.
Let's do it again. Oh.
There it is, yeah. But
when you're editing that, Justin, zoom in on that really bad.
Yeah, no, it's...
Yes, I've been building like an absolute lunatic, and I even got a chance to play with one of the sprues that's not out yet with the 45-degree angles. James, there's a wee thing behind you there on the shelf if you grab it out.
Oh, careful now.
Take the table out as well.
Tiger.
Is this your monstrosity you built, is it?
No, this is just a little tiny one that I decided to build.
What is it?
It's a Deadzone burger shack. Oh. Even the corporation have to eat.
Which makes perfect sense.
So, Justin, myself and James instruct you to build us some cool terrain for an epic game of Deadzone, and you build a burger bar, you're really trying to piss up my
You're
club,
just
aren't
you're
you?
just saying that because you know that you're not going to hold that against my my awesome plague forces.
Do you reckon the plague are going to overrun my burger bar?
Absolutely, plague burgers.
The plague need to eat more than you do. They probably have a higher metabolism.
You
most
told me
likely.
about this earlier in the week, and I thought every time you said it, you made a burger bar. I thought, what? Stop talking. But when
Yeah.
you say it, I'm thinking, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and then I've done a bigger building, which I have offset somewhere, which is sort of a detention centre that you can put down. So it is your big epic one with the sniper tower in it.
Yeah.
It's not quite so tall as the one you built,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not sure. I think you can only maybe go up 3 cubes in Deadzone. I
No,
don't
you can go
remember.
as high as you
go
like.
as high as you
Really?
like.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, if you go 8 cubes,
Right.
then you've got 8 by 8 by 8.
Yeah, perfect.
So
That would look really weird and be incredibly unstable.
I've actually, it's worth mentioning, I bought the our awesome bit of scenery we built back in Nottingham.
you've brought it with you.
Of course,
How
yeah.
did you get that through the airport?
Well, thanks to the genius of the clip system,
Uh-huh.
I flat packed it.
You
So
flat packed it.
Yeah, I just pulled the walls apart
Yeah.
and put it in my luggage.
And so suddenly
How
I have
cool is that?
another piece to build.
It's already built.
Fine.
All you're doing is unflat packing.
You're just
I know.
reassembling those corners. But how cool is that for a piece of scenery? We
the
built
only
it.
thing that is potentially going to be cooler
Yeah.
than this particular scenery system is something inflatable.
An inflatable wargaming scenery
Yeah.
system.
What we'll do?
Kickstarting soon.
What
You
we'll
heard this
do,
first.
Justin, is we'd get it, and you would have a tiny little pump because the pump would have to be small.
Yeah, so how
okay?
you're just going...
So, yeah, so keep no, it's not that kind of pump. It would be more like that there. So
I'm not doing that on camera.
you're going to demonstrate.
I'm not doing that on camera. Nope. Whole lot of nope.
It would kind of just more like that there. So it would to get it all inflated. So
I'm saying nothing.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Of course, we promised you that we were going to do our Deadzone mega battle report. It is going to happen. It's so on.
It's on.
It is so on.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to take a short break. After the break, we're going to be talking about Dreadball Xtreme. And we're back.
Yes.
Right. Dreadball Xtreme has exploded
Oh yes.
onto Kickstarter. That was a massive first day, by the way.
Of a first day. It was the biggest first day we've ever had in a Kickstarter.
You
It
could
was-
say it was extreme.
Oh,
You
could.
really did that.
You could.
Really? Are you proud? Are you proud of that?
I
Jeff?
was saving the it was extreme for.
Oh, if I
for-
just bust it.
So now you've used it. That's
So the other option is, do we go the opposite way and just use extreme at every juncture during this conversation?
Oh, that's so extreme.
That would be
yeah.
extreme.
So yeah, it came
was-
on. You
yeah.
had it sitting at a target goal of
$100,000, which is
that's the biggest you've
target
ever
we've done,
started. Yeah.
because it's the biggest starting bundle we've ever done. So you compare
Yeah.
it to Dreadball, for example. Dreadball initially was the box game with 2 teams, 2 8-man teams, which were plastic, metal referee, the cards, the rulebook, the board.
Yeah.
Pretty much that was it. We then upgraded it with the plastic ref. We put 2 more teams in, etc., etc., etc. Now the basic box game's got 2 teams, a bunch of like free agent, alien mercenary type characters you can add in, 2 sponsors. Also, the basic package has also got a whole expansion book which lets you use your regular Dreadball teams in Extreme. It's got a modular pitch as well.
Yeah.
The basic thing that we're funding was so much bigger than before.
Yeah.
And we blasted it in 39 minutes, I think it was, which was insane. We got some KFC in at 1 o'clock because we thought we're going to have some Kickstarter Friday chicken, KFC.
Yep.
And we sat there eating chicken and watching the total just go.
Yeah.
Because we had been rushing around like crazy, getting all the work in.
How long does it take? But because here's the thing, right? A Kickstarter. When you guys do a Kickstarter, like a lot of the best Kickstarters, you're not just spur of the moment. These things.
No.
There's a lot of planning goes in beforehand.
Yeah, the way I refer to it, this is my analogy, which is kind of now doing the rounds of the Mantic office, yeah. It's kind of like, and bear with me here, it's kind of like cooking a stir fry. Okay?
I will bear with you.
Bear with me. So, with a stir fry,
Yes.
you cook really quickly. And
Yes.
everything goes in, and if you haven't got things prepared, then you're going to end up with a soggy mess.
Right.
Because the idea is you cook it in about 5 minutes by throwing your vegetables in, throwing your meat in, chuck your sauces in, boom, 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 dish it up, you're done. So with a Kickstarter, you need to do as much preparation beforehand as you possibly can. So that means getting your concepts done, getting some prototype models done, to concepted, sculpted, painted.
Planning for it going nuclear.
Exactly. So guessing roughly what your stretch goals are going to be and roughly where. You've got to get as much stuff like that done as possible. So the process normally starts... well, it's difficult to say exactly where because lots of different people come in. So we get the concept artists, we'll be doing things maybe a month or two in advance.
Yeah.
Chris really starts working on the real nitty-gritty probably about a fortnight in advance of the final planning stage of it, working out what's going to be what's in each deal. But, I mean, we've been talking about it for 2-3 months now, I think.
Yeah.
So it really is an involved process.
And then during the actual month itself, that's really intense during the actual Kickstarter month. There's not an awful lot of sleep goes on during that.
No. And the thing is, it's interesting because we put all this preparation work in and we get ready for it and then it goes and it's like a wild animal. You can't expect, you can't guess what's going to happen. And so one thing might be massively popular that we didn't expect was going to be, so we have to put more work into that, more preparation into that. And so along with all the answering messages, answering comments and keeping up our regular day-to-day work, we just don't really sleep.
Yeah. And I suppose you're keeping up with everybody in the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
You're sitting in your time zone, and as soon as it takes over, crap, there's another bunch of people who just went after it.
Yeah, so what will normally happen is one person will pick up the messages in the morning,
Yeah.
so 8, 9 o'clock, that have been going overnight with all the Americans that have been looking at it from the US. And then we kind of go through the morning, and then, people from Australia and that side of the world are all coming in. And yeah, so all day there is someone commenting.
Having to deal with it. So let's talk a bit about the game itself. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
I'm a big fan of Dreadball. We ran the Academy.
I think if anyone knows that anyone's a fan of Dreadball, it's you and me, surely.
Absolutely. How is Xtreme... Right, well, this is kind of like two questions, right? I want to know how it's the same as Dreadball. I'm not going to be familiar with this. Am I going to be able to pick this up and basically understand how it plays?
Yeah.
And also, how's it different from Dreadball? Okay. Why would I want to go and get this when I already have Dreadball?
So, Dreadball. The basic concept carries over really happily into Xtreme. So, your dice rolls, your actions, your player types, all that kind of thing goes across. Your victory conditions. You're still trying to score strikes and get a 7-point lead. Yeah. Or be at in the lead when you get to your 14th rush. Yeah. That is the same. But from there, it all goes a bit mental. So, from a narrative point of view, the bit that I really like is that with Dreadball, we looked at the real sort of shiny, nice, clean, high-tech arenas, glitz and glamour, all that kind of thing. And then with Deadzone, we went the opposite way and looked at all the kind of the grimy frontier worlds. Yeah. Well, Xtreme continues that kind of idea and says, well, what happens away from those big arenas in like the warehouses, the prisons? So
it's like street football. You have your big Champions League stuff. That's Dreadball. And then you have what's happening in the back streets. It's the same rules because the rules of the game haven't really changed, except for the fact that the rules of the game...
They're not necessarily as well enforced, But it's kind of like Fight Club or, the illegal boxing ring in Snatch with the Guy Ritchie film. All that kind of thing. So that's kind of what's occurring. So what you have is, rather than the DGB, the Dreadball governing body, putting together these really big, like WWE-style pay-per-view events... You've got a bunch of sponsors, we call them, who are the kind of minds behind Dreadball Xtreme, who come together and go, look, I've got a team, you've got a team, let's make some money. Yeah. And so they get people betting on the bouts and, all that kind of thing.
So has betting made it in then?
It absolutely has. So
I was right.
Yep. So,
I like this.
Your sponsor. That's one of the big differences. So rather than having a coach for your team, you have a sponsor. And we've got 6 sponsors currently, might be a few more, who knows. In fact, 7, sorry, we've got 1 Kickstarter exclusive. But the idea is that this sponsor is someone who has got some money behind them. Yeah. They've got an idea and they want to go and play some Dreadball. Yeah. So one of the examples is the prison warden we've got. Nikolai Rasulov, who's the kind of big, scary-looking prison warden. And he goes out with a team of convicts. But he might also bring in some aliens. He might bring in some orcs. Yeah. So your teams are fluid. The idea is you pick a sponsor And depending on which one you get, you can build a team from different elements.
So, so each sponsor has kind of different pools of people that they can
it's all going to work
upon.
like a keyword system, like a
different
trait system.
influence.
Yeah, so if like your sponsor will have a list of traits, and each player type from each team will have a list of traits, and if they match, then they're cheaper.
Yeah.
If they don't, they're a bit more pricey. You can still take them, but it means if you theme your force heavily around that sponsor, you'll have a bigger team.
Yeah.
You see, but of course, what you'll miss out on is the diversity you can get from spreading it around.
Yeah.
These sponsors, though, they don't just stand by the sidelines. They take an active part in the game. You have 3 spaces on the board. So your sponsor can either be encouraging your team and giving you more coaching dice,
Yep.
distracting the opposing team or threatening them or bribing them, whatever it might be, and kind of making them lose some dice, or he can go and gamble and bet on the outcome of the match. And depending on whether he gambles towards the start or the end,
So he can move during the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, mate.
So as this
I
is all
love it.
going on, he's rolling around at the sides going.
So
"Look,
while
you
you're
go and do
sitting
that."
trying to work out what your team's doing, you're also having to think about your sponsor.
game within a
now
game.
might be a good time to go and
Do I-
put a bet on, or
Do I need to watch my other guy's sponsor and see what he's doing?
He'll be doing the
How
same
to
thing
act
as well.
this?
So he'll also be choosing whether he's going to be threatening you or encouraging his own team.
And I
Yeah.
assume you can't interfere with the other guy's sponsor yet.
Well, not in the basic rules, but each sponsor will have their own rules, which will, I'm sure there'll be some stuff like some sneaky,
So at the kind of a dust up
interference.
outside the arena.
The old WWE when the manager gets involved and
Yeah,
grabs the leg and
grabs
pulls
the
it
leg,
out,
Are you able to talk any more about the betting side of things at this point in time, or is that?
I'm not able to because I don't know much about it because it's we just had the beta rules finished off and Jake has sent them through. They're getting put through layout. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but from what I understand, you can bet on whether you're going to beat the opposing player, get more kills than them, get a landslide victory, that sort of thing.
But is it always bet that you're going to succeed? You can't bet that
You
you're
can.
going to fail.
I believe you can bet against yourself. I think. I think.
I can't wait to find
You're,
out. I can't wait
you're going
find
to take a
out.
fall in the 7th, all that kind of thing. So yes, that's a big part where it's different.
Yeah.
Also, another place where it really comes in is obviously you haven't got a referee
Right.
because the referee would just get stabbed.
Yeah.
So there are no fouls. So in Dreadball, when a player gets knocked over, they get teleported away to the little medical area where they move along, eventually get back.
Yeah.
into
So you
play.
get healed and then come back in.
In Extreme, you get knocked down for 1, 2, or 3 turns.
Yep.
And you lay them down, you put a 1, 2, or 3 mark next to them, and they just stay there in a little twitching heap on the floor.
Surely he could get.
Well, this is the thing.
Nailed.
Other players can jump in and stomp them, So what you tend to find in the games I've played of it, one person gets knocked down, and the other team then goes, "Oh, right then," and this scrum occurs. They'll jump on and start knocking it down to the ground. Highland! Ah! Yeah, and then when they get wiped out, you leave a little blood marker, like a trip hazard, basically, because there's this dead body there.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is there's no limit to the number of players, because normally that's a foul, bringing more players on.
Yeah.
In this, there isn't. So what you have is at the back of the arena, like a chain link fence, like a turnstile kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so you start off with 4 players, and each turn you can bring one more player on. And so your team gets bigger as you go, except they're going to be dying constantly as well.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of growing anarchy occurs.
Churn and burn.
Absolutely,
Isn't it?
yeah. And also you got things like you'll be hitting people from behind, that sort of thing. There'll probably be illegal weaponry involved as well.
I've got to ask.
Yeah.
Like, the Harlem Globetrotters travelled the world and played in the back streets and stuff like that there. Could a corporation team come on and...
Could your team turn up in...
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're doing some rules for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to...
Love it.
In the player's handbook, I think we're calling it. It's a set of traits and rules for all the existing 12 Dreadball teams. So you can pick from those players as a sponsor. So what you do, you might get a regular sponsor who's, whichever one you want to pick, and you then go and build a team out of your existing Dreadball team. And if you wanted to, you could chuck in a Teraton or a big robot or something.
Basically, your sponsor's going out and saying, "Look, here's a wad of cash. Come and play with me for a match."
Yeah. And
because I'm seeing these kinds of almost like exhibition matches and stuff like that there.
Yeah,
where
absolutely. Because the thing is, even though it's a bit illegal and underground, you know, for fact they'll be like going, oh, we could take these guys. They think
it's like real steel, isn't it? It feels a bit like real steel, yeah.
That's the Hugh Jackman one, yeah?
Yes, Hugh Jackman one with the big robots that box and stuff. It's all kind of underground, and then suddenly it all becomes kind of mainstream and glittery.
Yeah, his way up through the ranks.
Now, Dreadball itself scaled up. Okay, it's scaled up to 6 players, a 6-player game with Extreme.
No, Ultimate.
Ultimate.
Yeah.
Can Extreme scale up? Have you guys even experimented with that yet?
There aren't any plans as yet, as far as I'm aware, but I don't know everything about it at the moment.
Aha.
So there's certainly a chance. One thing we are doing is we're doing modular arenas.
Now, how does that work?
So, as it is, every arena is different. So the board is slightly smaller than Dreadball.
Yeah.
A bit more claustrophobic because you're not going to have the lovely football-sized area you'd normally have in a Dreadball pitch. You're setting up in warehouses, in abandoned factories, wherever. So you're going to have a smaller area, and that area is cluttered with stuff. So it's not a clear pitch.
Well, like stuff like crates and things, I guess.
Yeah, crates, pillars, machinery, all that kind of thing. And so when you play a game, you roll randomly to see which setup it'll be. And so it might be that the strike zones are all far apart because those move as well.
Yeah.
With the modular arena, you take that one step further by not just having, the setup moving, but the board itself changes. So you could have like a big triangular one with a gap in the middle. So you've got you're running around the outsides and things, and it's done with little blocks that are kind of like hexagonal blocks that you fit together in different ways.
A hexagonal block of hexes.
Yeah, like 9 hexes in a circle.
Slip it all together then.
And you do it, and then you build your board.
And you can build any shape you want.
Nothing stopping you, is there? So you could do what you like. So you have like an asymmetrical thing, and the idea is you're representing like maybe a space station or whatever it might be. And so there's going to be all these different ways of setting up a board and having a game in a different environment.
Just like a set of overlapping streets, you're just playing in
the back alleys. Proper like back alley Dreadball.
Yeah, it's just giving me the image of them running room to room in a warehouse going, crap, where's the goal? Where's the goal?
I want to combine this with the Deadzone terrain in some way to create a...
I think that would be very cool.
That could be very
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So, so like I say, it's
How many different arenas are there, or...?
I think it's probably about 6 because you roll a dice for it. So I think 6 will be the standard number in the book. But beyond that, who knows? And also the other thing is that there are these crates around the arenas that contain traps.
Yeah.
So you bump into them and they blow up and might knock you guys over and stuff. Because the idea is they haven't cleared out all the hazards from this area, and certain sponsors as well might bring in more traps.
Yeah.
And get down tripwires and awful like Jacob's Ladder. Electrical things and whatever else.
So Big Bruiser comes in, slams, you're knocked back into that trap, and you just blew up.
Well, that's the thing, Not only are you slamming people and knocking them down, you're slamming them, pushing them back into the traps that explode, like Robot Wars style, basically.
Yeah.
You got your patrol zones in the corners and things. So there's all sorts happening in Extreme, but the basic rules are still Dreadball.
Awesome.
So you will still know how to play it.
A whole heap of fun.
Right, if you want to get stuck in, it's on Kickstarter. The link's below, but we'll also bring a link up on screen here, but go and check it out. It's got another 20-something odd days to run.
Yeah.
It's just going to go bigger and bigger. I take it there's a bunch of stretch goals that we haven't
There's
even
loads.
seen
We've got new
yet.
teams. We've got some new ideas. We've got
We've got a speedball mini for a start.
we've got a speedball mini. How
Yes,
cool is that?
That is awesome.
We
yeah.
we contacted the Bitmap brothers who come up with speedball, and they were like, "Yeah, okay." They, because there are some definite crossover elements in Dreadball and Speedball, and so we've now got this character who's based off the original cover art from the game, and people are going wild for it because why would you not?
Yeah, it's
classic,
awesome.
stone
There's a
cold
piece of
classic
gaming history there in a mini. Yeah,
Absolutely. So we've got that. We've got we might potentially have some rules for using your extreme teams in regular Dreadball too.
So bribing the referees, guys, to take them out onto the main pitch.
Well, what it'll probably more be like is pitch the scene. You're the corporation.
yeah.
The Dreadball Xtreme, this underground illegal Dreadball, is getting more popular. People want to see the more nasty, gritty teams.
Yeah.
So what you do is you get your guys to dress up like convicts or evil Asterians, whatever else, and you bring them into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And so it'll be like a sanitized version of them, but the idea is the models are the same, so you can bring them straight in. We'll have rules from
The other way to look at it is a bit like Rocky, innit?
fighting their way up from the streets.
So you have your Apollo Creed Corporation team saying, as a celebration of our success, we will take on this
random team from the gutter.
from the Extreme, and they're going to come in and play us in the major arena.
What if they beat the champ? Way!
How cool would that be?
And there's loads of cool teams. I mean, we've got already the Mechanites, my favourite so far. They're like multi-part scrap heap robots.
They are looking very cool.
Wrecking balls and jet thrusters and whatever else. We've got the plague type team who are like a genetic experiment using all different bits from different alien species. There's just loads of stuff coming.
I think the best thing is the fact that you can intermingle the models.
Yeah.
That way you get to taste the flavour of all the sort of factions and stuff.
What about the actual manufacturing and the materials? Okay, because as Mantic has been progressing, they've been looking into they're always developing. They're always looking for new and better materials to try and improve the quality of stuff. Are we going to see any changes again this time?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one because Dreadball has got quite a big following in the board game community.
Right.
But a lot of them and a lot of people in that group don't want to have the hassle of building models because...
What do you mean that group? I sometimes go into that group.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, yeah, entirely. But there are people who are coming into it who aren't our normal customer base, who are board game fans first and foremost. They haven't got any miniature gaming experience. So when they receive a bag of plastic bits, they have no idea what to do.
The brain explodes. What is this?
We've actually had a few emails saying, well, I've got this bag and they're all broken.
They're all broken.
But that is absolutely the assumption people make.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're going to make them all pre-assembled, like one-piece miniatures.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I cannot wait. I mean, we're using a slightly different material. So we're using it's still a PVC plastic like our Restic is, but it's a slightly softer composition, which means the mould lines come off easier. It's still got amazing detail. Have you seen the Gears of War board game?
Yes.
It's the same material they use in that.
The detail in that game is superb.
It's what we use for Mars Attacks as well. It's what we use for Locker. So we've got experience with it. It works nicely. We've just had the Martians come through for Mars Attacks, and they look absolutely spectacular.
Are they good? Yeah.
They're so cool.
Why didn't you bring them?
Because everything's under lock and key these days. Because stuff just is we don't want it to go missing, and apparently I'm clumsy and lose things, so I'm not allowed to bring things out anymore. But
this is all because you're going to workshop, isn't it? This is you're being punished.
Possibly just doing a runner with the Mars Attacks models, But yeah, the plastic looks really cool, and it's going to just literally open your box, and your team will be there. You can just crack it open, play a game.
Awesome.
And awesome. Is it coloured plastic or just grey plastic?
It's grey plastic because we consider coloured plastic, but we realise if you're mixing your team from all different places,
it'll look weird.
You just get confused.
You get kind of just rainbow explosions. So what we're doing instead is coloured bases. Those clear hex bases are going to be in a different variety of colours, and you can use magnets or blue tack or those little sticky dots.
Yep.
And you whack your team in.
Very clever.
You're done.
Excellent.
Oh yes.
Well, like I said, go and check out that Kickstarter if you're interested. We're going to take a short break. When we get back from the break, we're going to be talking about Games Workshop. We're going to be talking about this man. He's on his way into the whole the writing team, the game. Yeah, he's well, careful. We don't want to call it an ivory tower. But we're also going to be talking about I'm going to be starting a new series looking at 40K, and we're going to get you guys to possibly even cast a vote on the direction that we take on that. So that
sounds pretty extreme to me.
It's going to be really extreme, and we'll be back right after this. And welcome back. Right. So the big news has been you're off to the design team, to the actual studio team in Games Workshop.
It's true.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's the last time we'll be speaking to you.
You know what? It is the toughest part of the whole thing is that I'm going to miss out on the community in general that I've kind of spent so much time working with in the wider gaming community. And you guys especially, because you've been so lovely to me. Especially you.
Anyway.
So I'm going to miss it.
You must be excited because in Backstage we have a series called Designer Studio where we talk, they're one-on-one interviews with designers and industry figures where we get to know them, what drives their thoughts on game design and stuff like that. And I had one with you, and I asked you a question at the time, of what was your what was your ambition in gaming, and you said point blank at the time, your ambition is the same as pretty much anybody else's ambition. You wanted to work in the biggest studio in the world, and that's obviously in Games
It's a heck of a
Workshop.
place, isn't it? I mean, it's what's interesting is I had that interview with you before I started working with Mantic. I'd done some work, obviously, with him on Dreadball.
Yeah.
But I was still very much on a freelance basis. But yeah, I mean, since I was about 12 years old, probably, and I was writing games back then, I wanted to work in the workshop design studio, because why would you not? It's just the massivest, biggest, awesomest, extremist place for a rules writer working in the industry today. And I think what's interesting is there are lots of small companies doing amazing things. And don't get me wrong, I think they are opening up the future of gaming in a way. But the absolute juggernaut you cannot ignore is Workshop.
Yeah.
And so it was really weird. I wasn't going to go for the job initially because I thought, well, I'm onto a cool thing here with Mantic. But then it came up and someone said, well, you should probably give it a go. And they were quite insistent. They didn't shut up about it for quite a while. Yeah. And I went for it. And after an interview, they said, we want to give you the job.
Yeah.
And
now you worked for Workshop before, didn't you?
Yeah, in the retail side of things, yeah. So I ran stores down south.
Did you go into the retail side of things thinking, well, maybe I can work
Absolutely,
my way
yeah.
to
In
the
my
studio?
interview back in 2002, I think it was, originally, I said, I'm getting this job because I want to work towards the design studio. And at the time I was like, yeah, well, everyone says that. Well, off you go. But having that grounding in that and being among people who are so enthusiastic every day about the hobby. Yeah. You get to see... It must be kind of like being here. You get to see people who are incredible hobbyists. Yep. Just your...
Sorry, I zoned out there. What?
No, it's okay, Justin. Just nod your head and go, okay, that's me.
That's good. That's all good. Thank you.
You get to meet all these great people who are doing such cool stuff.
Yes.
And they've got such enthusiasm for it that it really drives you on. And so that kind of built my knowledge of all of it. Yeah. Gave me loads of little skills. I think then worked in my favour, and then
it's
here
funny.
we are.
It's funny how you had to leave Games Workshop to be seen to get to where you wanted to be.
Well,
sort of in Games
but
Workshop.
that's not unusual. Sometimes experience has to be gained elsewhere before you can bring your experiences.
And through Mantic, I mean, I have learned so much at Mantic because it's the kind of place where you are doing 10 things at once. Yes. And I've picked up on so many different things. Playtesting, organising playtesters. Yeah. Anyone can playtest, but wrangling a group of playtesters, all of whom have got an opinion. Yeah. And some of it's nonsense and some of it's really good stuff. Yeah. And often the same people will say nonsense and good stuff in the same sentence. Yeah. There's all this stuff that I've learned that I think has just directly fed into this role. So it's really exciting.
It happens to coincide around the time that we ourselves are going to start taking our baby steps back into 40k. 40k is moving so quickly these days, though. There's so many releases. There's so much cool stuff coming out. Obviously we've just had the Knights, the Imperial Knights launch. Cool. Oh, how cool are they? Yeah,
quite good.
It's as model kits go. We must be this close to them doing a Warhound Titan. Yeah.
Normally I look at that scale of thing and I think, it's bloody stupid. Yeah. These big models are stupid. But I was looking at them the other day and I was like,
yeah. Well, Lloyd, there's one thing I know you want...
I think they've won me over with this. I think I like this. Because it's not big to the extreme of being stupid, but it's still impressive.
Yeah, no, Lloyd, I know there's one thing that I'm sure you're going to ask James to fix.
They're Centurions. We can't ask him to fix anything. He's going to need to be there about 2 years before he has
keep going. But yeah, it's what's actually quite interesting, I think, is like say with the Knight. I mean, it's such a mind-blowing kit. But you look at the model itself. Look at the sprues, the pictures that are out there. Every little detail is just astounding. It's superb.
I think they nailed it. I think they nailed it. I think that the conversions alone that we're going to see from that kit are going to be astounding.
I'd say the Orc players are going to go nuts with it.
Well, look, you could hand Orc players a box of Lego and they'll go nuts with it.
Fair point.
I don't base... I love Orc players, but I don't base the quality of a kit based on what Orc players are going to do with it, because they could work. They could work with sand and they could create something amazing. Okay. However, I think some of the cool Imperial stuff that we'll start to see off the back of that kit, because the legs and stuff are very Titan-esque. You know, there's a lot of really cool aspects there that can be used.
I mean, you mentioned orcs, and the last thing they sort of did at this sort of scale that I think of is the orc stomper.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's that sort of size.
Well, no,
See, I had someone who
they've done the Eldar, the Eldar one. What's it called? The Phantom?
Knight.
Oh, the Wraith Knight. Sorry,
Yeah.
They've done the Wraith Knight. They have the Tau Riptide.
Well, I suppose, but this is bigger than all those, isn't it?
It's only
more chunky.
I think it's about the same sort of size. I mean, from what I've seen, so the Stomp is about yay big.
Yeah.
The Riptide's about like that.
Yes,
the
this
Wraith
is
Knight.
sort of stomper size.
But from what I've seen, it's a little bit smaller.
It's about 8 inch, 8.5 inches.
Yeah, it's equivalent size to a Wraith Knight as what a human would be to an Eldar.
Yeah.
So a little bit small, a little bit chunkier, you know.
No, you see, what I was talking about was I saw a Dread Knight from the Grey Knights Codex that an Orc player had took and converted up to be Orky, which is why I'm thinking it would look very cool to see one of the Knights redone as Orcs.
Because your Dread Knight's not far off the size of a Knight. So you've got this whole kind of subclass of bigger models that aren't Titan size. They're kind of that mid-range, bigger than a Walker, bigger than a Dreadnought.
What they do, though, is that they introduce players of 40k to the whole prospect of going on to buy Titans, which is a great, because look, if you're a 40k player, the super heavies is where it's at. You know, sooner or later you want to plunk down your cash and get a super heavy and paint it up and spend hours and days and weeks on it.
I don't get this. I don't understand this obsession you have with Titans. I look at Titans and I think, kind of stupid. Kind of put a model down on the table and everything skirts around it.
But the Titans are representative for me of the Imperium. The Imperium is all about
representative, yes, but they don't bring much to the game. Plop a model down and
No,
everything.
they bring plenty to the game.
Everything try to destroy this one thing.
I think it depends what you get from the game, doesn't it?
Would you put them in every game? Of course not. Of course not.
You would if you got the chance.
Okay, of course it would. Of course it would. But the thing about it is, right, for me, the Titans are representative of the Imperium. The whole mindset of more, bigger, harder.
Yeah,
okay?
So brute force your way through everything.
Yeah, so you have that aspect of it. On the gaming table, right, I would quite happily, right, if we had a selection of Titans, have them on the gaming table and just have them switched off. Because the epic effect of the look of them on the gaming table. I am a whore when it comes to this stuff. I just love the look of a great game. And these things on the gaming table just inspire me. They bring the whole thing to life for me. It's that sense of scale.
No, I like the new stuff because it could actually move around the gaming table.
Yeah, but
whereas a Titan you put it on the table, that's it.
No,
it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, but there's different levels of Titan. There's Warhound Titans. There's two patterns. There's Lucius pattern, which is the boxy one that looks like a truck from Convoy. 10-4, brother rubber. And then you have my all-time favorite Titan, which is the Mars pattern Warhound, which I think is a piece of design, is one of the most fabulous pieces of design of any kind of war machine, right? Those things will quite happily move around a table and cause all kinds of devastation and mayhem on it.
They play better on a table bigger than 6x4, I think, definitely.
Yes, but I find 40k in general plays better on a table that's bigger than 6x4.
8x6 is a lovely size for it, especially if you get a little road network down and you got.
I don't know. It just feels weird. It just feels like lifting kids around a table because they're that sort of size.
No, they're not that sort of size. A Warhound Titan is only that size.
What's this thing that you had last week?
Right. Okay. Last week.
That's when you get to the realm of being silly.
That's the big daddy.
Your scale up from the Warhounds is Reaver.
I know what a Warhound is,
right?
yes.
So you then have the Reaver Titans. The Reaver Titan is about that height.
That's about as big as you can sensibly get away with, I'd say.
Okay. The Reaver Titan that's the biggest that Forge World sell. Okay, so that's the biggest that you're actually going to be able to buy from Workshop or Forge World. The Reaver Titan probably isn't going to move around too much on a table, okay? It'll move a bit, but it has really big heavy weapons, lots of long range, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What I was showing off, and if you want to see it, it was in XLBS last week, that's our Sunday show, is what's called a Warlord Titan. and
Yeah.
you'll see part of him sitting up there. So the Warlord Titan is bigger again. That's when you start to go to Warlord, and then as Imperator is your
The idea was in a battle group
it's
you'd
a
have like
walking
your
fortress.
Warlord and a pack of 3 Warhounds that would go out and
yeah.
you know
the Warhounds are your
stuff.
sort of
So you're
scouts.
telling me I only need to buy 3 Warhounds
Absolutely.
to feel complete?
3 Mars pattern, you sorted.
3 Mars pattern
Whereas
is the way to go.
your Imperator, the huge one, is the kind
Yes.
of thing that there'll be one of on a world, and it will just stomp around.
It's like it is basically
It's got
a
cathedral
castle.
doors in its
Yeah.
legs and all sorts of crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
it's essentially a walking fortress of doom.
Now, that kind of thing is effectively a piece of terrain. If I'm being honest, the Warlord Titan that I showed off in XLBS last week is a piece of terrain. It'll sit on one side of the table. It's there just to add just impact to the whole thing. But
I suppose, if I think about it, when I was a kid, I didn't have problems playing with AT-ATs.
no,
There you go.
no, we played with AT-ATs, and Millennium Falcons and things like that there. This to me, the Titans are just such a cool. They're the cream on the whole thing. The meat and potatoes of 40k is fabulous, but whenever you can get to the stage where you've saved up enough money and you've started to enter the Titans, that's when you are taking that big step up, and you just think to yourself, God, just
does it not
how
eventually
cool does
become
this look?
psychological warfare?
No. What do you mean psychological warfare?
Right, say I'm playing against you. You slam down this big, gigantic ass thing from your side.
Careful now, careful now.
Ah, damn it, you're kidding.
And then you open your figure case and get your models
You
out.
are still talking about Titans
Yes,
here.
yes, yes.
Okay, yeah.
You put down the gigantic Titan on your side of the table, and I'm
Yeah.
standing on my side of the table with maybe Stomp-as orcs all over the place.
Yeah.
Is it not just a little bit intimidating?
No,
seeing
because
something
you've
like
got
that?
Gargants.
I suppose.
You've got
The
you've
joy
got a
of point
Gargant.
values is if he's got one of them, you've probably got 10,000 of these guys, you know.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
about 1 million orcs.
Yeah.
The thing about this is, right, is I'm entering back into 40k. I don't play 40k to win. Because honestly, in that game, I don't care about winning.
You and me both. Some of the best games I had in 40k was just eking out draws. When
Yeah.
I knew I was outgunned,
The closest game's the best.
out close combat.
Absolutely.
Because I was playing Tau, and Tau were really. I don't care what anyone says, they were suffering old Codex syndrome.
Yeah.
I was outgunned, out close combated, and I was just eking out draws, and I was going, yeah! Take that
I
draw!
remember when you and me used to first start to play 40k whenever I had first started to come in to see you guys.
You mean when you were cheating?
Yeah, whenever I had read the rules wrong, and I did apologise.
Well, the thing for me is that 40k, 40k is a construct, right? It's a construct of living out a movie on the tabletop. Okay, it was a game. You know, all this tournament play. I love tournaments. I've really enjoyed them. I went to a Flames of War tournament, competed in it. Loved it. I went to a Drop Zone Commander tournament, competed it, and loved it. But you know why I loved them? It had nothing to do with the winning, or the losing, or the being whitewashed or anything else. It was how much I learned and how much fun I had being able to set aside 2 days where I had game on some cool tables with some cool terrain with some cool people. I reckon I would have even more fun if we, for example, booked out we have a place where we have our club nights. It's a bar. If we booked it out for a weekend and said we're going to erect a 16 or a 20-foot table and we're going to play a massive game on it, there's going to be Titans and stuff like that, and we're going to play it out over the course of a full day, have some beers, and just see how the whole thing pans out and look for those cinematic moments.
That's where your Titans fit in, isn't it? Is the games that are memorable, one-off, crazy games.
Yeah.
Where stuff's going to happen.
And the rest of the time, they sit on your shelf and they just look awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just totally enamored by it. But my route back into 40k. Okay, where am I at? Okay, I have for a number of reasons. Okay, I've been disengaged from 40k for a while. Primarily because I've been engaged in a lot of other games. I've been getting up to my Oxters and Flames of War for the win.
Yeah.
We're now looking at Bolt Action and stuff like that. However, for some time now, I've been looking back at 40k, and I want to try and explore it. But I want to explore it not just for my benefit, but for benefit of the viewers and newcomers to the hobby. Because 40k is, yes, it's the biggest, no doubt. You know, some tallies put it at 80% of our market is playing 40k. Okay. However, I look at 40k now, having been never an expert in it, was never an expert in it, was familiar with it, been out of it for a while. I look back, I look at it now with a certain amount of trepidation and a certain amount of confusion. You know? A lot has happened. There's been a frenetic release schedule. Yeah. So what I want to do now is to document getting into 40k as effectively a newcomer. I want to ask the questions. I'm going to get people on the shows to talk about the different chapters and things like that. What is special about them? What do I need to think about? And basically do a whole beginners series on getting into 40k. What supplements should I be reading? What supplements should I not? Because I don't have time to read everything. Here's the two kind of constraints, because we find that the best work we ever do is when we put constraints on it. Yeah. Number one constraint is I don't have time to do everything. And number two constraint is money. Okay, we don't have, we're not rolling in cash. We don't have a ton of money to spend. And let's face it, 40k over a long period of time is going to cost a little bit of money. Okay. Well, so
a moderate amount of money, I would have said. For the amount you're going to want to do, the size of army you're going to want to play at the end up, it's at least a moderate amount of money to get a decent sized force up.
Yeah, it's going to cost money. It's going to cost a fair amount.
3 warhounds and a warlord. I mean, you know.
Yeah, well, so something like that. So what I intend to do is I intend to basically we're going to put out some ideas, and you can post in the comments below. We might have a little poll on this, okay, of the army that I'm going to build, okay. But my whole thought on this is I don't have time to do everything, so I'm going to seek advice, get other experts and stuff like that on the show to say you want to have a look at this and this and this. I want to try and demystify the background of 40k so that people can better understand what's going on in the game from a narrative point of view, because let's face it, if you want to truly feel comfortable building a 40k army, there are a certain number of things you should know. You'll probably want to know how the Imperium works, how a Space Marine chapter is kind of created, why it is the way it is. You'll want to know a little bit about what's this whole Horus Heresy thing that kind of really shaped the universe.
You're talking about perhaps specific jump-off points within the fluff?
All the basics. So to get the basics together, that anybody that's coming on this journey with me, after watching these shows, will say, yeah, I feel comfortable to go out and buy some bits and pieces. I know I'm kind of buying the right thing, and I know if I'm painting them this way, why I'm painting them this way.
Without having to wade through 30 years of backstory and trying to work it out themselves.
Correct.
You want them to feel comfortable in the universe. For example, I feel uncomfortable in the 40k universe because I only ever read the Tau Codex.
Yeah.
And I didn't bother to read anything else.
It's the happy, shiny version of the 40k universe.
I just read the fluff that they had in the Codex and nothing else. And that way, when I end up having a 40k conversation with someone, they start talking about all their stuff, I immediately start to feel, I know this game, I play this game, I know my Codex, but I immediately feel out of the circle.
Yes. One of the things that I found is I remember buying Space Marines and stuff and modelling them up and doing all these bits and pieces and doing these cool conversions to it. And then as I got deeper into the fluff, I realised that these conversions make no sense.
Everyone does that.
I had a conversion where I had done a Land Raider, where I had a guy in it on his knees looking up at what I thought were canisters of gene seed. Yeah. They were melta-bombs. Yeah. he was revering the melta-bombs.
Well,
I felt like such a tool bag.
Like, they were 25, 15 points. They're pricey. You want to revere them.
Yeah, and so I felt like a total tool bag. And I look at that model now, and I shudder.
Which one will I throw today?
Which melta-bomb?
He's kneeling down with the wires in hand going, crap, 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 crap.
So what I'm going to try to do is to try and help anybody that's going to follow along get the key touch points. You may still make a mistake, and I may make mistakes during this series as well. Hopefully not the melta-bomb religious ceremony mistake, but others, new mistakes. But to try and have it that you can generally, looking at an army, or when you come down to actually sit and model and paint, you're looking at it and you're going, I basically understand why things are the way they are. Yeah. Now, because cost is an issue, time being an issue is one thing, but that's the effect that's going to have is mostly on me trying to find time-saving ideas for understanding things and modeling things. The cost issue is going to be a bit more tricky to work with. So what I'll probably do is I may introduce other models and things and 40Kify them and create an army that's very much for me. Yeah. This army I may only ever be able to play with you guys unofficially. I may never be able to bring it to an official tournament or something. We don't know. Yeah. But the fact is, there's a lot of stuff out there that I want to explore. And from my gaming in the gaps, I'm always looking for a way to be able to do something that is very much me and very much feels like me, and I'm not just doing something that's the same as everyone else. Because they're my little talking points. Yeah. For someone to go, what the hell is that? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is...
I like the idea of you hovering near it, waiting for someone to say, with your spiel ready to go.
Did you notice them? Did you notice them? Well, here's what. Let me tell you about it. So I'm going to be looking at alternative models and things like that we can use. I'm going to be looking at means of doing even some little bits of custom built stuff. It's basically over the course of the next year. It's a document on how to get into this game and for newcomers to follow along. Now, how am I going to do it? My first thought was, I need to pick an army, okay? There are amazing armies in 40K. You have Necrons, which for the longest time I've always said was the best beginner army in the 40K universe, because they're easy to paint, they're quick to paint for the basic color scheme, and with the new codex, it's full of interesting tactical options.
Yeah, they are
Not
interesting.
to mention great backstory.
Sorry?
Not to mention great backstory.
Yes, they have a superb backstory.
Massive leap from codex to codex, I thought. Because it went from... I couldn't really ever get a handle on what drove them, in a way, because they were kind of soulless mechanisms. And then suddenly, new codex, oh wait, they've got a load of character.
Character came out and everything.
Yeah.
The other one is, the great army that's had a recent update is Tau. Now, everybody in the world wants a Tau army, because Tau armies just look cool, and that Riptide model is awesome. However, I'll probably steer clear of Tau, because Tau is going to be a more difficult prospect for me as a newcomer to try and create customizations and model and things for, because it's a very specific design aesthetic. You may well go back to Tau or something. You're welcome to show it off.
Well, I might go back to Tau, but it was the Kroot I was enjoying towards the tail end. I was just enjoying...
They are kind of cool, though.
Kroot.
Yeah,
I was enjoying looking around for other creatures that I could incorporate in
Well,
with
there's
Kroot.
a great idea with Tau, because Tau are assimilators, aren't they? Basically, Tau will go out and assimilate other cultures and things, and so you could have other creatures and just use the Kroot rules for them.
For example, I was watching John Carter of Mars, right?
Yeah.
Which is actually a pretty good movie.
Not a bad film.
I heard it was crap. I watched it on Netflix. It's actually really good. I'd watch it
Thoroughly
if you haven't
enjoyable.
seen it. But there's the race on there that got a bit
Got
crudy,
the
like.
four-armed
Yeah.
guys.
And they've got like a dog thing that goes really fast.
He's amazing.
You guys won't know what I'm talking about, but James knows what I'm talking about. It's that idea of, I was thinking maybe I'll go back to Tau, but increase the Kroot side of it and have the Kroot capturing some other creatures and stuff to ride around on, and just customizing it in that way.
Yeah. At the risk of heresy, it's almost kind of like the Rebs in Deadzone. You know, where you've got all different aliens. That's what the Tau are kind of like. They bring it all in. So you can totally do some proxying.
And there's so many other cool alien models out there that you could bring in and utilize it. And
you can have humans in your Tau force as well.
Yeah. That's a classic one, the old Tau auxiliaries, The
other options are Chaos. Chaos are a possibility, because the great thing about Chaos is you have the possibility to ally with Guard and do a traitor Guard type thing. Chaos opens up things like whether you go kind of more corny, kind of look, Khorne being one of the Chaos gods, which is all about fire and blood. Or you go Nurgle, in which case you start to model petulance and tentacles and bile and stuff like that.
And your other half did a hell of a sculpt.
So, yeah, Sophie's a bit of a Dark Horse hobbyist. She does some cool stuff. Yeah, you guys saw the Hellbrute she did.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's all kind of drippy and awful, and
Other things are Eldar. Eldar are probably a little bit too elegant for what I'm going to try and accomplish, because I'm not an expert modeler, so I'd feel a little bit intimidated by Eldar. Dark Eldar the same. So Orcs, possibility, but not most likely top of my list. So to cut a long story short, as it stands today, what I'm thinking of doing as my beginner entry into 40k for people to follow along and what I'm going to work with is I'm looking at the possibility of Grey Knights and using the fact that we can now ally in 40k, which I think is one of the best rules that Games Workshop ever introduced. Whoever came up with the idea, pints, probably not enough pints in the world for what I want to buy you to reward you for that. But the whole ability to have your army and then an allied detachment from another army in there is brilliant. So what I'm looking at is the possibility of Grey Knights with Imperial Guard. Okay, I'm not sure. I need to check the allies table and see if that A will work, and B, it opens up interesting fluff things where the Grey Knights are a very solitary bunch from what I can gather, and there's going to be a certain amount of tension, I would imagine, between Grey Knights and Imperial Guard.
There's a story in the background of I think it's the first battle for Armageddon where the Grey Knights are there and the Imperial Guard are there and loads of demons happen and they fight off all the demons together, and the Grey Knights then turn on the Imperial Guard and say, right, you've seen too much and now you have to die. But the Space Wolves turn up, who are there as well, and go, no, that's not cool. So you have Space Wolves fighting the Grey Knights over the fact they were going to kill the Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
That's a really cool concept. But yeah, so it could work as an alliance, whether the Imperial Guard survive the battle, you know.
Well, this is something that I want to explore. But that is just one option. We're going to try and come up with other options, but in the post below, in the comments, definitely chuck in whatever ideas that you have. But what I'm looking for is models that are relatively easy to paint, okay, because that time issue. Models where I may be able to explore other models from other ranges and rework them and sculpt them to try and create something unique. But it has to be an army with a background that I can game in the gaps. I want to be able to find a background to say, this army is separate from all those other armies. Yes, they play with the same rules and stuff like that.
So
but
this is mine.
They're separate. Yeah. Here's their fluff. Here's what makes them tick. And here's how they do what they do.
Well, if you're going Grey Knights, there's a painting tutorial on the site.
Yep, we have a great painting tutorial on the site for how to do Grey Knights. So
Your first step is Roman's basing technique to give you that shading.
Yep.
So it's either that or do something along the lines with metallics. But anyway, it's a new show. It's something that we're going to be kicking off soon. But now's the time for you to have your say in the whole thing of what you would like to see. Because at this point, I could be persuaded to try something else. You know, I have this idea of the Grey Knights with the Guard, but you know, I could be persuaded to try Space Wolves possibly. You know, or something else. So we'll have to see. I know there was a great groan of, oh God, he's went for an Imperium army. But you know, I'm trying to work with something that ultimately
find a thing that you're going to enjoy and then do it. Yeah. That's all I can say.
Well, James, mate, congratulations.
Thank you.
We hope you have an amazing time in the studio, and we look forward to seeing the results of your efforts over the next couple of years. And no doubt there'll be a new game played online where we're dissecting codexes, looking for which bit. Do you think that's a James M. Hewit moment there? Yeah. What, that moment where everything gets muddled around the board and gets blown off the board onto somebody else's board, and then they attack and assault straight away? Yeah, that's probably a James M. Hewitt moment there.
I'll put hidden messages in. Every 20th letter in the codex will spell out, you know, I love Warren.
Did.
That'll do. If
you actually did.
We'll be watching out for that.
Remember not to spend all your money on Bugmans.
Yep.
That's difficult.
Yep. And if you are going to be in Bugmans for any length of time, give us a ring. Give us a ring. We'll come down and we'll get a pint.
I'm sure I'll see you guys when you come over to Nottingham for whatever. So
absolutely. Right, guys, thank you very much for watching. We hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you would like to continue, because we're going to be moving now to Backstage, which is coming out tomorrow morning on Sunday mornings, we're going to be talking about Harold Ramis from Ghostbusters. We've got some talk on RoboCop, and we're going to be generally spending some time talking about game design concepts, you know, and the kinds of mechanics and concepts behind it all. If you'd like to get involved, come on over to beastofwar.com, join our Backstage. Backstage is a little subscription thing we have going where you get extra content. We have a ton of painting tutorials and things like that. But it's also your way to help support the Beast of War community and keep the whole thing alive and help us keep the lights on. And we need quite a lot of lights these days, so any help is much appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you in there. In the meantime, have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you next week.